Hello, everybody out there in the Instaverse. I'm Wynston Cornelius. I am the Southern Equality Fund organizer here at the Campaign for Southern Equality. And I am next up with our another Black Lives Matter nominee from our last grant round. And we're going to try and see if I can get them up here yet. Nope. All right, well, while we're waiting for them to connect, just want to give y'all some backgrounds real quick. So we had a Juneteenth weekend of this year. The Campaign for Southern Equality launched a special Black Lives Matter grant round for Black LGBTQ Southerners doing righteous work in their communities. The grantee list included groups that do birth work and doula services, media arts and filmmaking for Black trans people, even a high school diploma program for LGBTQ youth and sex workers, both trans feminine and trans masculine support groups, rural drop-in centers, and the list goes on. We're excited to continue to lift up the great work that these people and organizations are doing by talking with the grantees and sharing these conversations with you. We're also happy to report that we have launched another round of these grants, and the nominations are pouring in, so please keep them coming. And you can learn more and nominate someone for a grant by going to southernequality.org. I am going to now get our next BLM nominee up here. Which is Dewayne Murrell of the PAIGE Inc., based out of Memphis, Tennessee. Let's see if we can get up there. We're waiting.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me and accepting my request.
Absolutely. Thank you for being able to have some time and talk with us today and share more about the wonderful work that the page is doing and has done. Um, but just first, I want to ask, how are you doing, Dwayne?
I'm doing well. I'm in traffic. I hope this is okay. It don't, spook y'all. I am a very good driver. I have a CDL license. So
Okay.
you shouldn't have any trouble on the road. But considering the traveling, I'm doing really well. I'm really excited about what the page is doing. I just actually got a date solidified for our conclave meeting, which happens monthly with us. So
Yay.
this one, the title is When Life Gives You Lemons. And we're just going to have a conversation about like how we are currently experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic and how we're able to cope through it. Many folks have just been needing people to talk to. I actually this morning was talking to someone and they lost they lost one of their parents to COVID-19, and
Mm.
when they finished that memorial service, they had three other friends who lost loved ones from COVID-19. Not really
Oh,
realizing
wow.
for me personally that this is a big deal, but when death is involved, especially with our people, like it's something. So I'm a little
Right.
shaken with that. However,
Right.
in good spirits, I've used that fuel to
Right.
keep fighting for health equity.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, my family just experienced a loss. It wasn't COVID-19 related, but a loss is a loss, and especially here in this pandemic, when
Exactly.
you want to be around your friends and family and be able to love and hug on them, and it's just
Exactly.
like, I don't know if I should, because what if you have it,
Hmm.
so it's a lot of worry and all of that. And so I'm glad that they had that. You were that person that they could talk to, and we send them so much love
Yeah.
and healing and support, because yes, it can be difficult. And I'm glad that I have my family to support me on that.
That's
So I
right.
understand. I
That's
understand.
right. Yeah.
So let's just get into it, Dwayne.
All right. You
So
know, that's my line.
okay, all right. So you work with the Page Inc., based out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Right.
Can you tell us just a little bit more about your work and your organization and what y'all do?
Right. My work has been sewn into the fabric of the page here in Memphis. My work began with doing HIV prevention for Black MSMs in the greater Memphis area about 18 years ago. And it turned into doing work for the whole LGBTQ spectrum, particularly Black and Brown folk in the area, because as we sit right now, there was no organization when we got established doing grassroots that really talk about approaching LGBTQ life holistically. There were like organizations that exist before, but they all have kind of not exist just at a blink of an eye. I think a lot of it was like funding geared.
Hmm.
And as we know, when we're talking about funding for organizations, it can come and go, just like your representatives and your presidents and everyone. Like when that administration stops, your work stops with that
Right.
funding. So
Hmm.
what we've tried to do is to uh, get the community involved in building up what programming we do offer. That way, we're not highly susceptible to stop abruptly because of funding or lack of funding. There is, but we have been able to offer services for folks in the greater Memphis area who are Black and Brown around health access, around particularly HIV services, HIV prevention, like PrEP, even education, just talking about negotiating what type of condom you want to use if you're going to be sexually active, being in social settings, if you're going to talk about mental health issues, like if folks just want to vent. That's why the
Right.
conclave was the first thing that we've done, and I have to thank Southern Equality. You guys were the first people to give us a dime to do the programming that we were doing. This is pre COVID-19, of course. So we were
Hmm.
able to create safe spaces for people who are Black and Brown, and it was for us and by us, and talk about the things that are basically, impacting us and changing aspects of our lives that folks don't really understand that does.
Right.
Um, so, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what we've done. So, everything from health access, again, also being present in doing advocacy work, we've been doing all of it, and COVID-19 gave us a new opportunity to serve a different way. We've
Hmm.
been able to do COVID-19 relief, where we were giving people gift cards to acquire, much needed nutritional foods that they really should have in comparison to the food bank that would give them stuff they really can't use.
Right.
Also, being able to, put money on buying prescriptions. That's not only just, like medical, but like glasses, contact lenses. You got to be able to see.
Okay.
You can put money on their utility bills and helping them to keep their lights on. That way they're not in the dark.
Yeah.
And we've also been able to assist folks to keep them in their homes as well. So our capacity grew um, significantly,
Yeah.
and we're making it do what it do with the little that we have, because it's about the work and impact. And
Right.
so I think that's where the disconnect happens with a lot of agencies, that their intent don't match the impact, and we
Right.
want to make sure that we measure ourselves by that.
That's super awesome, and I'm so excited and just beaming with light for the work that y'all are doing over there in
Yeah,
Memphis, especially because the within this organization and other organization I work for, I happen to know many of folks from the Memphis area,
yeah,
and we've seen it in North Carolina, we've seen it in South Carolina,
yeah,
with legislation and just being very anti LGBTQ. Doesn't matter whether it's the T part of
exactly,
it or the LGQB, and
exactly.
so it's really really nice to hear, like, even in that adversity, which I know y'all have a lot in Memphis, because I see it all the time.
Yeah.
And that y'all are even being able to be so resilient and overcoming, with those obstacles that you even have, with legislative laws. That's big. That's super big,
Thank
and I'm
you.
so glad that y'all are, in there doing that fight because it's important.
Yeah. And
It's
that's the
super
thing.
important.
Thank you so much. And that's the thing about like doing the advocacy for LGBTQ folk that I think folks generally don't understand is that all over the country we're under attack. And it's so many different aspects. Like, Tennessee is like culprit for a lot of bad legislation for LGBTQ people.
Hmm.
Talking about mental health services, a person now can refuse to give counseling to a person who's experiencing hardships around identifying LGBTQ, or even if they themselves identify and it's something else that's adjacent that they're trying to get worked out with mental health services, that professional can refuse services and it's
Mm,
supported by the law. That's unacceptable. My thing is like
right,
what's happening is like it's almost like they want to make the standard where we're taxed without representation. They don't
right,
want to hear us and they definitely don't want to see us.
yeah.
And that's unacceptable.
But what they are doing is seeing you and hearing you. So what they gonna do now?
Right. Wait for them at the door.
Yeah, right. So, what led you to? I mean, you talked a little bit about just the kind of absence of the resources of having something for and by Black and Brown people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's kind of like the creation of the PAIGE Inc. and why it was founded. And so, can you talk just a little bit more about why this is important?
Absolutely. So my thing is like I answer that question by talking about how so many years folks in many different industries have tokenized us and say, oh, well, we need to tap into your culture and your community. Let me hire you, and you will be a exemplary, hire saying that, hey, this is an affirmative hire. We've hired someone who's LGBTQ and they're a person of color. So now we can report to funders that we have someone like that on our staff. And then they're getting resources to come to our community, but the money is not earmarked to
Hmm.
come to our community. So follow me, just follow me.
I'm
If I
following.
get a grant and it's for trans folk and it's for $100,000, and the agency writes for that grant, gets that grant because they hired someone who's trans and say they're going to spearhead this effort, they most likely are going to get the money if they are a large corporation or nonprofit. And then what ends up happening, that $100,000 is eaten up by all types of other fees and lines that's supposed to go to that grant, and maybe 25% of that money goes to the community. And
Mm,
it's stringently monitored as far as funding because work operating a nonprofit is actually very hard to do because you have to show that this money actually is going to the community. And agencies, I've seen agencies lie and talking about like they've done the work, and actually what they've done is borrowed measurements from other pieces of work that they've done in either in collaboration internally or collaborating externally outside of the agencies, and the work never actually gets done.
hmm.
And so what we have done, and what I thought was really jacked up, is we lose integrity in our communities as
Mm,
individuals who's representing these agencies. And so it's like we wanted to put a change to that. And it's like, no, if we're going to apply for a grant or do the work in the community, we're going to do it the other way around. We're not going to go look for the money. We're going to do the work. And if we happen to run up on a resource that can help us do it in completion or better, then we'll accept that. But we're going to have our community to pour into us, and we pour into them and keep that cycle going. Because I think this is the same concept that's happened in the black community years ago, and that's how you got the Black Wall Street. That was in
hmm.
Oklahoma. They depended on themselves. They built their wealth and their equity using each other and helping each
Right.
other along the way. And that's what we want to, try to address. And that's what I wanted to address and use that concept going forward with the page. Um, our slogan is "Turn the page on your life," which means that whatever that is, we wanted to be able to have you be a part of our organization and have a reciprocating relationship where we're able to help you and you
Yeah.
can turn the page on your life and building that equity and just even self-awareness. And it's such a beautiful thing just watching us work with each other and seeing how we can validate each other and really elevate each other, steel sharp and steel. And that's the whole concept.
I love that. I love that so much. Yes. I love the fact. I love the pour into yourself, and that way you're able to pour out to others is
Absolutely.
a really valuable concept to have. Just because some folks don't do that, like
Right.
some folks take and don't give, but I feel like that's a really important thing to note there. Um, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Um, so, if any, what are some challenges you're facing right now? Maybe even during this pandemic that we're under.
Yeah. Well, I would say the pandemic really, it really pulled everybody's skirt up and show what you got. That's why so
Mhm,
many businesses are closing and everything. But the barriers that we're facing right now is the same thing that we've been facing since getting started. Um, my board and myself wish has been to get a physical space to operate, and we don't have that yet. So we've been operating like I have a home office and we do our admin stuff. If we are needing space to store things or to have meetings pre COVID-19 or even maybe post,
mhm,
we've been using borrowed space from folks who have been more than helpful. And to actually think it's been organizations that's white run. So I don't want to knock any organizations that's white run. Like you have people who are awesome allies, and they down in the trenches with us, and like, okay, we see the inequality that's happening, and we want to make sure that we do our part and to change that and impact that. That
mhm.
being said, we really actually are looking for physical space and needing to go ahead and move on with that. I think as far as programming, our programming has always been so flexible where we could go virtual on things and it don't impact the participation at all. So that's been a wonderful thing. Uh, and I can't talk about the barriers without talking about the things that are great. So that's one thing that's been really awesome for us.
Yeah,
Um, but I think talking about the going back to black equity, we don't have that here in Memphis. Black LGBTQ agencies do exist here other than the PAIGE Inc. However, only one agency owns where they are.
mm,
And there's maybe one or two more that rent where they are.
right.
And the work that we do, I think it would be dope to show that we can own where we are. That way we could be a beacon of light for the community at large. Folks who are allies, folks who are a part of the spectrum, and folks to come, after the fact. Maybe the building could be, repurposed. That's absolutely fine. But we feel like we need to leave our footprint, and we got to start doing that now by trying on some shoes.
Got you. Well, for our viewers out there that are with us on the live right now, Dwayne Murrell of the Page Inc. said that a awesome help would be some space in the Memphis area. So if you know of some stuff, we're going to give you some ways to be able to contact Dwayne and the page a little bit later on. And to each one, teach one, help one, uplift one. Um, so as we get more to a close, Dwayne, we've talked about some of the challenges. I've kind of thrown out one way to throw out a help of support and a challenge.
Yeah.
But the viewers here may want to hear it from you. So how can viewers support you or the page?
Okay, so many different ways, but I'll try to do the easiest ones. If you're not a person that's vocal and you don't like to get down and dirty, you just maybe like to write a check or throw some cash this way, we'll take it, and we're gonna put it to very very good use. So you can find us. We have a cash app, the Page 901. You can go to our website to figure out, hit that donate button on there. Our website is thepage.org, and you can go there and donate. But I think the second thing is get educated, know what you're spending your money for, and come see what we doing. Like, you can you can subscribe to our blog. We're always telling folks about the things we're doing in the community. We just did a collaboration with the local health department and some other CBOs in the area, and we did HIV testing, COVID-19 relief, and we distributed 13,000 condoms in that same function. We were able to educate folks, get people registered to vote, because you got to shout out your vote. Don't boo, vote, right? And you can't be
Okay.
counted and be present if you ain't voting. And we want to make sure that folks are exercising that, because so many people sacrifice for that opportunity.
Yes.
And the other
Yes.
way that you can, get down with us, if you really want to get a little physical, we have virtual calls around different folks who have an HIV diagnosis in Tennessee are highly criminalized, particularly our sisters who are in that population of folks who could be commercial sex workers. So what we're trying to do is change that landscape of how Tennessee looks at this population of people, and say that, okay, the highest, deadliest disease that people die from in Tennessee is actually heart disease. HIV is not even in the
Mm,
top 10 of that. So why is that criminalized so stringently? We need to change that. And so over 17,000
yes.
people in Tennessee today are criminalized with that particular law since 1986. And it does not interpret
Wow.
medical standings on people being able to take their medicine and live longer, and knowing that, okay, they cannot transmit the virus if they're taking their medicine, and if they're using protection, that also adds that lower risk of transmission. These are some of the things that we're trying to impact by changing that one law, and it needs to happen like yesterday. It does not coincide with the strategies from the national strategy to end HIV, nor the global strategy that has been, indocted. Been drafted rather, um,
Mhm.
for years, like since Obama's been in office. And Tennessee will not move on this. So
Wow.
you want to get down and dirty with us? That's what we're going to be fighting for, because this is absolutely ridiculous for our people who are a part of the LGBTQ spectrum, who are HIV positive, which that represents a lot of us, unfortunately. But that's also, HIV is a disease of inequity, and healthcare access has not been expanded in Tennessee, which puts a lot of people at greater risk. And everything that we do now around HIV is counterproductive to public health uh, standards and what they recommend because of this
Mhm.
law. You tell a person to get tested, know their status, but once you know your status, we're gonna criminalize you if you're positive.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah, so we got a couple of things. You can fight, pay, or get educated. So it's three different
Hey,
strategies around that, and we welcome you to do either one you choose and see fit.
I appreciate that so much, Dwayne. And I have just enjoyed our conversation today and all
Thank
the
you.
ones we've had in the past.
Right.
And so glad that you were nominated for this, and rightfully so. And
Thank you.
so, again, I appreciate the time that you spared for us to have this conversation. And for all you folks that have tuned in with us, please check out the page. You can go to thepage.org. You can check them out on Instagram at the page 901. Don't forget to click that donate button or anything. Once again, Dwayne, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have the rest a great, wonderful week, not weekend, afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll start with the afternoon. We'll get into the weekend.
All right now.
All
All
right.
right. Bye bye,
Thank you for
y'all.
having me.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.